Welcome everyone. Welcome to Off That Hours with Michael Kitces. So we're here today to talk about conferences and attending conferences. So I'm here at the FPA NorCal conference, what I think is frankly one of the best conferences of the year. I'm sorry if you're not here. You'll obviously have missed it this year. You can check it out next year. But I get this question a lot of advisor conferences, frankly, are expensive between like registration, hotel, airfare, all the incidental costs. You can easily be out $2,000 for a conference. And the most common question I get these days is basically like, why would I pay $2,000 for CE credits that I can get online for free at the back of a magazine? So I want to tackle this because it's a good question. I mean, when you really look at conferences, it's pretty common for advisor conferences these days to have about $1,000 registration fee, and then you're going to be out $300 to $500 or more for airfare, a couple $100 a night for hotels because usually they're at not inexpensive hotel. So it really is true that you're often in for $2,000. You can get that a little bit cheaper sometimes at some regional events, like FPA Minnesota and FPA Dallas Fort Worth both do big annual regional chapter symposia that bring a couple hundred people and are only like $200 or $400 or $500, so a little less than $1,000 registration fee. But still, like, you can be out $1,000, $1,500 for going to a conference that you traveled to. And frankly, because a lot of you know, like I harp a lot on the value of your time, frankly, the biggest cost for going to a conference is really your time. I mean, if you value your time at $100 an hour that you're trying to do billable work with clients, being out for 2 days costs you almost $2,000 of just the value of your time. And the more successful your business is and the more valuable your time is, the more of a cost drag that is. So, as I would fair value time of what you should be building towards, frankly, your hard dollar cost plus your soft dollar cost is probably more like $4,000 or $5,000. So that being said, like, why do you attend a conference? I'm basically making this really bad when you can get CE cheap elsewhere. So frankly, the first thing to note is just it's not about the CE, really, especially when you're traveling for a conference. It's not about the CE. It's nice to get a bunch of CE in one place. If you go to a good conference, and I maintain a list of ones I suggest every year. If you go to a good conference, at least you get some pretty good speakers, so you'll get some more interesting CE. As I like to put it, hopefully you'll get CE that actually teaches you something rather than just like checking the box, taking the quiz at the end of the magazine. So there's a little bit more value maybe of going to a good conference rather than just trying to read your way to CE, particularly for some of the CE options that are out there. But to me, the driving value of going to conferences, it's about perspective. It's about seeing your business from a different view, and the different view that you get when you talk to other advisors who nominally do the same advisory business thing you do, but do it differently. One of the things that amazes me about our financial advisor world is so many people do things differently. We all, for running remarkably similar businesses where we all use the same general value proposition, we do it so differently when you get into the details. And the challenge I find, it happens to all of us, you get used to doing things the way that you always do things. And as I like to put it, we get stuck within the four walls of our office and forget that there's a whole other world out there that does things differently than we do them. And it's how you get stuck in a rut. It's how you can burn out. You don't even realize sometimes the things that you're doing that are inefficient and bad for your business because you've just always been doing them that way, and it's so hard just to take the time out to think about your business that you just get stuck in a rut. And conferences help to break that rut. And part of the value really is actually traveling to a conference, because part of the point is to take yourself out of your normal routine, right? If you even just go to a local conference, and I don't want to knock local events, but you go out for a day, that's maybe like a nice way to get some CE, but you if you go for a day of something local, you're still kind of thinking in your head of like, oh, well, you got to get back to the office, and you got a couple emails to answer, and the rest of your day, and things you'll do when you get back home in the evening, and all those dynamics, and you don't really take a step back to look at the business. When you travel, when you actually block off a day or two from work, you leave the area, you leave your routine, it lets you get a fresh perspective. And the reality is, often you really only need like one significant idea, one major takeaway, one big thing that you can take back to your clients, to your advisory business from a conference to generate a huge ROI, even on that $4,000 hard dollar plus soft dollar cost of going to an event. Maybe it's a new idea about marketing or prospecting, or a way you could change a process, or finding a new vendor that takes some problem, challenge in your business and solves it. I feel like I set the bar so low to say, hey, if you go to a conference for 2 days and you find one thing, then you get a great ROI on investing your time and dollars. But it actually is true. It really does happen that way. And the more your business is growing and the larger that you get, the more that matters. Because it happens to all of us. We get used to doing things the way that we're doing them, and you need to see things a little bit differently. And for me, like that's been formative, I know, for my career throughout, particularly since I came up the ranks largely in an employee context originally. I got used to doing things the way that we did them in our office, and I liked what we did, and I was very proud of what we did, but it wasn't until going out to other firms and seeing things like, you do data gathering with mind maps. What the heck is that? Tell me about that. Let me understand that more. You're using your planning software more interactively. What does that look like? As a business owner now, I'm in conversations. How do you structure the compensation for your advisors so they feel engaged and rewarded? Because here's what we do. Are you doing the same thing? What's working for you? That external perspective is so valuable, because we all just get used to doing things our own way. And really, even more broadly than that, I find the biggest value for me, really, actually, if I look back in the long run, is the networking. And networking is kind of a cliched term. I mean, it's the connections I make with other people that blossoms into something more later. So for me, even early on, like going to a conference was where NextGen was born. We founded it out of a conference. If we hadn't all come together for a conference, that whole thing never would have kicked off. The study group that I've been involved with for 10 years, we came together at a conference. That was how we all met each other. Our new planner recruiting business, my partner Caleb Brown, I originally met through conferences. That was how we got to know each other and found we had this shared passion around helping young financial planners find jobs and helping firms find good financial planners that are have promising careers. Like that matchmaking process, we didn't even realize that was a need until we went to a bunch of conferences and found young planners that said they couldn't find good firms, and good firms that said they couldn't find young planners, and had like the light bulb moment. Oh, we should be a matchmaker here. Like this is a business problem we could solve and benefit our community and have a viable business to do it. And you don't see those dynamics until you get out of your office to see those dynamics. So, what that means as well, like if you want to maximize the value of going to a conference, or if you're going to put the dollars in, make sure you get the leverage and the ROI out of it. So a few tips I'll give. Number one, and I hate that I have to say this, and I'm sorry if I'm calling some of you out for saying it, but bring business cards. I am constantly astounded by the number of people who go to a conference where one of the primary benefits is networking, and they don't bring business cards. Or they bring a few, and then they meet a bunch of people, and then they don't have enough business cards, and then they can't follow with all the people they want to follow up with because they ran out of business cards. Bring them. Bring a stack. Bring 100 of them, and your goal is to give them all away. Right? Because business cards you take home with you have no value. Business cards you give to other people are connections that you made. So bring a stack and make sure you don't go home with any of them. That means you're connecting with other human beings and making some relationships, or at least starting some relationships. Look at the agenda in advance. I kind of plot out what do you actually want to go to, and frankly, what do you not want to go to. It took me years to actually appreciate that, because so much of the value of going to conferences is who you meet and who you get to know and the relationships that you form. It's okay to not go to every session at the conference. Maybe that's like a revelation for you, or some of you. It was a revelation for me. It was probably literally years before I got out of the habit of must go to every single session. And I was hardcore. Like I went from the breakfast sessions to the end. Like I thought I had to go to every session. And then I found out that some of the best conversations I had, or some of the best experience I had out of conferences, was when I started talking to someone. I got caught up in the conversation. The next thing I know, people are coming out of the door that I was going to go into because the session is over and I missed the whole thing, having an awesome conversation in the hallway. FPA Retreat in particular is kind of legendary for stoking so many good conversations that you miss lots of sessions because you're just having great conversations with people. So, looking at the conference prospectively, look at the agenda. What do you want to go to? What do you not want to go to? And it's okay to miss sessions. Next item, Andy, you nailed it. The vendor room, the exhibit hall at conferences, go in there. Go into the, I know we're obsessed with not going in the exhibit hall because frankly, a lot of sponsors have kind of burned us with bad experiences. But the nature of exhibit halls is changing. I think the fundamental reason why most of us historically have felt so uncomfortable in exhibit halls is that the exhibit halls were filled with companies that manufactured products that wanted to get them to our clients, and we were their distribution channel. So basically, they were selling at us to get through us to our clients. And when you're that intermediary middleman person for a product distribution, it feels icky because they're schlocking stuff at you to try to get you to peddle it to your clients, and it feels ugly. That's changing, though. The reality is we still help our clients implement financial services products, even if you're operating fee only. Like, you still have to make sure your clients get to proper outcomes, which means you need to know what's out there, and you need to do your due diligence and view the exhibit hall as an opportunity to do due diligence on whether there are better solutions and things you should be recommending to your clients. The second benefit of the exhibit hall, which I love, is finally changing, and kudos to FPA NorCal here who's doing this. We're seeing a growth of technology vendors that serve advisors in exhibit halls. So I pounded the table for years for conferences to do this more. FPA National finally started adopting it a couple of years ago. Now we're seeing NorCal and other places adopt it as well. Have an area for technology vendors. Because as advisors, we need solutions. And the whole challenge to the exhibit hall has been, it was filled with companies that wanted to sell stuff through us to our clients, and not people who are actually there to solve our problems, right? To make our businesses better. That's changing now. The exhibit hall increasingly is filled with vendors that actually want to solve our problems as advisors and make our businesses better and our lives easier. But you have to show up at a conference and go in the exhibit hall in order to actually take advantage of that. So walk the exhibit hall. Find time to plan to walk the exhibit hall and look at all the stuff that's there and have some conversations. Other items I'd suggest, make sure you've got some way to capture ideas and takeaways from the conference. So as many of you know, I'm a hardcore Evernote user. I scribble everything in Evernote because I can get back to it from my laptop or my desktop or my phone, wherever I am. It syncs across all devices. But whatever your mechanism is, even if it's a white pad or yellow pad that you scribble in, have a place to capture the ideas and takeaways. Because what you'll find, like if it's a particularly good conference, you're going to get lots of ideas as you're talking to people. And if you don't write them down, they're going to flit away when you have the next conversation with someone else, and you may lose your ideas, or you may lose like the one good nugget that you wanted to run with. So have a way to write down those ideas. And the other reason that you write them down is so that when you get back to your firm and you're there a day or two later, and the buzz and the excitement is wearing off, and you're thinking like, okay, did I actually learn anything I want to do? That's when you pull out that notepad, you pull out those notes and say, all right, now that I'm kind of looking with a fresh mind, what on this list do I actually want to do something with? Is there a business idea I want to use? Is there a new product I want to follow up on? Is there something I want my team to help me out with? And then the last item I'll suggest as getting good value out of a conference, anybody you met that you actually thought was interesting, that you had a good conversation with, send a follow-up email. Not, you don't have to do like full thank you note, like, saying a thank you note, like, thank you for meeting me, it was really cool. Like, that gets kind of weird, but just send a follow-up email. It can be brief. Hey, Jimmy, it was great to see you at the conference, really enjoyed the conversation, hope we'll stay in touch. And the reason you do that, one is just to help follow up and cement maybe a budding relationship. I mean, if it's someone you had a good conversation with, you want to stay in touch with them. The second reason, I cannot tell you how many business opportunities I've had that came from, met some people at conferences, sent them brief follow-up notes, and then like 2 years later, I get an email out of the blue from this person. It's like, hey, we had this great conversation 2 years ago, and I've been thinking about it, and now I want to do something, and I want to see if I can work with you. And when I look at the email they sent me, it's actually a reply to the one I sent like 2 years ago. Because people keep their emails in their inboxes, and when they want to the easiest way for them to reconnect is they just go through their old email and search for the name and hit reply and continue the thread. And you'd be amazed at how many emails you can get from people that are replies to things you sent weeks, months, or even literally years ago. But when you send that follow-up email, you make it easier for them to reinitiate the connection. And that's very powerful to making sure that you form relationships, you form connections, and the opportunities can come. In terms of what conferences to go to, frankly, our industry is kind of overload of conferences these days. I'd encourage one of two directions. Either A, look at like broker-dealer, custodian conferences. So whatever your business platform is, if you're in a XY Playing Network, we have our own conference for people in the network. Schwab has their own event. LPL has their own giant events. Like every sort of platform network group has their own conference, and it's a great place to go because by definition, everybody there who is at least somewhat similar to you because they're on the same platform or in the same network. So it's a nice opportunity. Going to membership associations often work well for the same reason that the membership association, who that attracts is a common bond. So if you're a fee-only planner and you're in NAPFA and you go to NAPFA, you're talking to other fee-only planners. So you can get people who have a similar interest, a similar passion to you. You may do your businesses differently, and that's where the good connections come. But at least there's kind of a shared element that means you're likely to have good conversations with people. And there's maybe, I keep a list as well of conferences to attend and check out. So you can always check that out as well if you're looking for something new or something different. If you've been doing one conference for years and you want something new. I know a number of advisors now that are starting to do 2 conferences a year, kind of one in the fall, one in the spring, because 2 in quick succession is kind of stressful for the business, but maybe alternating them every 6 months. Because what you'll find is once you start getting good ideas and connections off your business, you want to iterate faster. You want more. You can go to a conference, get something, take it home, run with it, go to another conference in 6 months, do it again, and that's how your business gets better. So I hope that's helpful. It's just some food for thought around conferences, conference landscape, value of doing it. Again, there's educational sessions in CE, and I don't want to knock that particularly because I get paid a lot to be a CE speaker, so please still come to my sessions. But the biggest value is not the CE. It's the people, it's the connections you make. But create an opportunity for yourself to do that well. Bring your business cards. Do basic follow-up to people afterwards. Make sure you've set yourself up for success. And Andy, it's so true. Andy's saying, I like how motivated I am coming out of them. Yeah, it gets you fired up again. If you don't go to conferences often or you've never been to a conference, you may not even realize how fired up sometimes you can get by just taking a break from your normal routine and putting yourself in a fresh environment like a conference, particularly with people who are similar to you, who you'll draw energy from, right? Like going to a conference where everybody's different than you is kind of awkward and not pleasant. So go to an event where you've got some affinity. But it's really energizing, it's really powerful to give you fresh ideas to come back and make your advisory business better, advance your career. Even if you're an employee, this is relevant for you as well. If your employer won't do it, pay your own way. I've bought my way to many conferences over the years because it forms new connections. You may even find a new job opportunity that's better than the one that you're at. No offense to any current employers. Again, the connections that you get by going out there and doing that are really powerful. So I hope that's helpful. Thanks everyone for joining us. Sorry we're a little bit late this week, but normally office hours, 1 p.m. East Coast time every Tuesday, and hope this is helpful. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.